The story I'm going to tell you is about the tsunami of April 1st, 1946. Now, I'm going to give you a setting, first of all. The Hilo you see today is not the Hilo that I knew when I was living there. Where you see the Hilo town, on the opposite side was the same thing, all the way across to pass near Moheo Park, you went to Moheo Park. And also there was a Waikea town, but that was all taken. Anyway, looking at that side, and also on the ocean side, there was a railroad track. That brought all the people from Honoka'a and all those areas to Hilo. I lived in the area you now see that's bare, very bare, there's nothing there. And when you go shopping in Hilo, you go to the farmer's market, that whole area there were homes in those areas. And we had homes like plantation homes where they were all in rows. So when the tidal wave came, now you see the setting. I lived on Kilauea Avenue, which is one street from the Kamehameha Avenue or near the town. What happened was we got up at 6 o'clock in the morning like we normally do. My twin brother and I had to do the dishes one week. He had to do the house cleaning one week before we went to school. So we got up early. My grandfather worked for the federal government as a weather person. So he came from Waikea side and he drove and he would go to the federal building, which is near Kalakaua Park, you know, that big federal building, so he was there. One morning, well, April 1st came. April 1st was April 1st. We didn't know anything about April Fool's Day. And I was about 11 years old then. We didn't have a phone because we were poor. Well, I didn't know we were poor, but we were poor. And the neighbor's house was maybe about half a block away. So she would call and say, "Mrs. Haena, you have a phone call." And my mother would yell, "Who is it?" "Your father," my mother's father. And so she would run across and my grandfather said to her, "Don't let the kids go to school today because there's a tidal wave." My mother came running back, she said, "There's a tidal wave." I said, "What's that?" You're 11 years old, you never saw a tidal wave, so you didn't know what it was. Anyway, so all of a sudden, my mother came back, my father had gone to work already. He was working in the auto area on Kamehameha Avenue. Our house, the back porch, you could see the palm trees, all in Moheo Park. You see all those palm trees? Well, we could see those. About 15 minutes later, all you could see was a huge wave. Nothing. You couldn't see any of the palm trees at all. Then you could hear the rumble, like a freight train coming. Then all the buildings began moving. All the buildings along Kamehameha Avenue began moving. And finally, the wave hit us. The wave came, some of the homes were damaged, but the water came right up underneath the house, and there was fish all over the place, and we'd run out looking at all the fish, thinking, oh, we can catch fish. But we didn't realize how dangerous it was. That was the first wave. The next, then we saw all the water rushing out. Then another wave came, and you couldn't see the coconut trunk and trees, and you could hear all the rumbling again. So there was about 3 different things waves that came in. And after that, we lost power, we lost everything. The house was not destroyed, but we couldn't use the house. So we had to go to my grandmother's house, and she lived on Manono Street way in the back. So we stayed with them for about a few days. Then we had to leave and move to Waimea, Kamuela, because my grandmother lived there. And so when he talks about his Hawaiian things, my grandmother talks about that all the time. But anyway, it was a frightening experience for all of us living in Hilo to watch the tidal wave. Now that tidal wave destroyed part of Hilo, Then I left the islands in the 50s. The next one, I think, happened in the 80s or 60s or 80s. And that took the rest of the Hilo town. Now that you see that whole area is all grass where the Wailor villages and the clock, there were all homes there at one time. So it's all gone. San San Lao, that was our favorite Chinese place to eat, and it's gone. Anyway, so that's my story in terms of tsunami.